Good afternoon and welcome to today's edition of The Buzz, the social media program on television. It's Monday morning and it's a good Monday morning at that. We're up, we're well, alive and kicking. You know, it reminds me of the nursery school rhyme. I learnt it from way back and I still recall alive, alert and enthusiastic.
That's for those of you
Yeah.
who went to nursery school.
All right, thank God for life, and thank God it's another Monday on the program. This is where we discuss topics trending on social media. My name is Patience Belokafo. Always a pleasure to be here, and I have my panelists with me on the show. Mr. Gordy, I think you should just walk into the show because we know you. We know you have come. Anyways, I'm so delighted to have come back on the show. One of our regulars who has been well attending to other personal matters, and of course, you know, man must work. So we are not upset, Mr. Ikem.
Good to be here.
He's a public relations consultant and he's a social commentator. Mr. Ikem Okuhu. Good afternoon, sir.
Again, good to be here.
Good
Thank
to
you
have
so much.
Thank you for coming.
And having me back.
Yes, anytime.
He's also a farmer.
Yes. And this is the season. It's
Yes.
raining, so it's time to be on the farm. All right. Another one of our regulars on the program. He's a renowned journalist with very articulate views on national issues. Akogun Gani Kayode Balogun. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us on the program.
Always a pleasure.
All right, we also have another renowned journalist, a brand analyst at that, Mr. Gordy Ofose. He's just behind the camera. He just walked in. Anyways, we're going to take a very quick break. When we come back, we go into today's topics. Do join us again. All right, welcome back. It's still The Buzz, the social media program on TV. Mr. Gordy, yes, maybe I should introduce you the way Akogun just did.
Okay.
Mr. Gordy the Great Ofose.
Yes.
Honorable in the making.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the
Yes,
show.
welcome viewers.
All right. Okay, so remember the number to use once again is 0802 8368971, SMS only. Our first topic today, APC adopts direct primaries, and of course, a fresh crisis brews based on this new development. The National Executive Committee of the All Progressives Congress on Thursday adopted the direct primary method for the selection of its presidential candidate, while states will be allowed to choose which of the methods best suits their peculiarities. The party, however, said that states willing to use the direct primary method should write officially to the National Secretariat. Now, this was part of the resolutions reached by the party's second highest decision-making body after its NEC meeting in Abuja on Thursday. However, this has led to a wave of fresh crisis within the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC. Reports gathered say that some of the state governors who were displeased with what they said was a unilateral decision of a clique within the party leadership were said to have voiced their displeasure through their proxies in the National Working Committee of the party, and blah, 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 blah. Anyways, the whole crisis with APC is not new to all of us anymore. But then, For me, this is more like history repeating itself again. And one would have thought that APC would have learned, over time from history, how to deal with internal grievances and all of that. Mr. APC, Mr. Ikem, sorry, sorry, it's not Mr. APC. Mr. Ikem, is APC moving forward really, with this new development or not?
It's very, very unfortunate. But APC, let me just say it straight. There's a bit of double standard in what they are doing.
How so?
How so is because they now say, okay, it's going to be optional for states.
Okay.
Just not quite long ago, they did something, they did the primaries for Osun State. Some of the candidates, in fact, 1 week to the primaries, the people who were contesting didn't even know whether it was direct primary or delegate election until somehow they foisted from the same national secretariat, which is now giving states options, they foisted the direct primary option to the states. One of the candidates I know protested against that, and then you went through it and said it must be direct primary. When there was no clear database of registered members, ordinarily it should help the party in terms of galvanizing every grassroots member.
Yeah.
But it is prone to a lot of errors. It is prone to question by people who will now debate the authenticity of the register, the genuineness of the register, the database that you are using for the primaries. Anybody can claim to be an APC member and walk in and vote. Where is the register of the party that they are going to use? And then why didn't they come now and say, okay, it is compulsory for all the states? Presidential primaries that essentially nobody will contest. You are now saying it's going to be direct primary. Then the states, you're giving them the option of taking either direct or indirect. Who is controlling the party in the state? Is it not national? So if Lagos does direct primary and Enugu does uses delegates in the same party, I think there's double standard.
Okay, all right. You did mention who is directing and not talking about direct and control. Let's look at the leadership of Oshiomhole, because some people are attributing some of this fresh crisis, to the leadership of the new national chairman of the party. Akogun, does this have anything to do with Oshiomhole's style of leadership or not?
Well, the party, just like the country, there's the kind of leader it deserves at any given time. And I think that right now, Oshiomhole is the kind of leader that APC deserves. It's really coming after the lackluster and on very weak leadership provided by Oyegun in the past. That he could not manage crises that were within managing proportions. But it blew out of all proportions and led to what we are facing now.
Okay.
So Oshiomhole is the kind of leader who comes in and takes no prisoners. It will work in the short term, but the damage in the long term may be more than the party can really grapple with. That's why I say I have no issues with him. For those who have been observing APC, they've opened the register since last year. I think around July 1 last year. In fact, they've done about 4 rounds of membership drive. But most of the governors assume that they will not get to the point where these registers will be used to amount to anything. And that's where the crisis came in. Because you and I know that if most of APC governors were subjected to direct primaries, they will lose so woefully.
Yeah.
You think that God has come down from heaven. Things like that bad. Even some governors who did not win at all in the first place, and whose first job they did, like the Kogi man, was to totally take the party structure and put it aside and start benefiting those that came to the party from the other side. He will lose if they should go ahead and do that. I can give you examples. Or El-Rufai, who has spent the last 4 years marginalizing and traumatizing the particular sector of his state that has the population to decide to go.
So if I follow your analysis correctly, this recent development it's not a good thing for the APC at this time.
On the short run, they have no choice.
Okay.
Because you must understand this, politics is a game of interests. Like he said in Osun, it's the interest of the national party or those in the national office to ensure that direct primaries were used. Because some people came with a load of money that they cannot compete with. But in some cases like this, like they said, there will be those that has the money to do it and try to cut out those with the figures. So hypocrisy is thy name if you are really a politician. And you have to understand the dynamics of where they're coming from. That's why they put that lacuna. That if you want to use police rights,
then you.
we all know what's happening. Because they realize the fact that in some states where the governors are not popular with the party, you can use the primaries to get them out. And states where he's popular with the party but not popular with the people, you can use the delegate conference to keep him in. So it's a wishy-washy kind of.
Wow, interesting. All right.
We are Nigerians, we know how it goes.
Okay, now the presidential elections are just around the corner, Mr. Godi, and people are saying that this new decision by the APC would actually aid in rigging 2019 elections, especially in favor of the president. Yes. So, what's your thought? I know you are with the PDP, but then, what's your thoughts on that?
I sincerely do not see how the APC direct primaries will affect the general elections. I don't see anything like that. I think what I see is that at the end of the day, the direct primaries would further affect the party.
Okay.
Some people will look forward to leaving. I think we have heard that yesterday, all the chairmen of the APC across Nigeria met in Barcelona Hotel and kick against, one, the direct primaries, two, the nomination fee. Now, those are the two key issues that obviously is going to affect the party. Mr. President Mr. President rather does not have a problem because no one is contesting against him. Obviously, from what we have read, presidential is fixed on direct. Yeah. On direct. So whoever that is going to, nobody's going to compete with him. Nobody's going to contest against him. Now, when you come to the states and other elections, you find out that, well, for me, direct primary is the best form of choosing political leaders. For me, too, US is doing it very well. Now the question is this environment right for that? Now, if a party wants to start a direct primaries, why don't you, first and foremost, ask all your governors to start a direct primary with their local government elections? Test the waters, because in June, you are aware that in Ekiti, Mr. Fayemi won the APC ticket through indirect primaries. Just a couple of months after, you experiment an indirect primary. You are going to call for anarchy. As we speak today, some people have gone to court, Osun State primaries, and they are actually challenging the NWC? Is it NWC?
Yeah,
NWC's capacity to detect or to control or to insert anything in the constitution of the party. Because in the constitution of the party, as it were, before now, there was nothing like indirect primary, according to those who drafted that constitution. So when you look at all of these things, I don't think it's going to affect the general elections. What it's going to do to the APC, because direct primary is alien in our political system. You also know that in this political system in Nigeria, it's heavily monetized. Yeah. Now, politicians are aggrieved that at the end of the day, we will now go and do election before the real election. Because at the end of the day, APC do not, like Agogo said, since last year they started registration. In fact, recently, in July 1, they also called for a new registration. But you know, you and I, that two of us, or me, I can belong to, if I'm not contesting, I can belong to about how many parties as possible, how many parties that I can, as long as something is coming out from those areas. You know, that is our situation right now. So I believe that Oshomole himself, like he said, is not the only decision maker in APC. They have, like the governors, president, you saw that meeting on that day. Those are the people that take the final decision. And I believe that the president has a huge role to play. He has a huge role to play. President is the reason why Oyegun is not the party chairman of their party today, because of his statement. So he can also come out and make such statement and tell, look, from what I have read too, he has actually complained about 55 million that they asked him to pay. That is too much for him, cannot pay as a civil servant, as a public servant rather. So I believe that he has to make a statement so that these things, these free names can calm down. Thank you.
Okay, I see, Mr. Ikem, you want to say something today because I'm wondering why they pushed this idea forward in the first place. Because even at the meeting, there were dissenting voices. You know, people should have calmed down and looked at issues properly before
Like
coming
I
out
said,
with this kind of
and
decision.
There's so much hypocrisy, double standard in what they are doing. Now, okay, the presidential selection process will have to be direct primaries. Now, let's look at this scenario. APC in Enugu State, for example, APC in Anambra State, for example, picks the delegate method. And then for the presidential selection, you direct primary.
Yeah.
So are they saying that Enugu State should fix a different day for the presidential primary and then come back with the delegates that will do the direct primary? Or they are saying that, okay, on the day for the presidential, let everybody go and vote. While for the governorship and other things, let the delegates go one corner and cast their votes. It doesn't make sense. You have to be firm. It has to be uniform. If it is a law, it has to apply to everybody. Equally. The same rule, the same role, the same responsibility must be spread across. But because of it worked for them in the selection process for Fahimi, in Ekiti, that is the delegates' own, it solved the problem they wanted to solve that place.
Yes.
In Ekiti, they knew that that method was not going to work for the person they had vested interest in. And they now, and they now use direct primaries. So it's like a trap for them. They don't know how to solve a problem they created. But I think for primaries, to make it a bit less rancorous,
Indirect.
use the delegate conference method. Select it, then let them now go and market the people for the general votes. If you want your delegate, this is your candidate, the person you are voting to go and represent you, at least in principle, you should tell him, this is why we are sending you here, to vote this candidate. Like all of them are making laws on our behalf in the National Assembly.
And signing all the loans on our behalf.
And signing all the loans on our behalf in the National Assembly, whatever that means. But it just doesn't tally for a primary election. Unlike what God said, America doesn't do direct primary like that.
They do, some states.
Some states, but it's still, I don't think every member of the party gathers to vote for the president. That is what, if you remember, it's still a collegiate system.
If you remember the option A4 system, that is what they are trying to do. But APC has not clearly stated how the president will be voted for in a direct primaries. Now, they are still silent on that.
Because they are not sure of what they want to do.
The dynamics, okay. All right, I can go last words on this so we can move on.
Well, like I said, the reality of our situation is the fact that any system that benefits the person doing it is the one that is working. And that to me is the case of the APC. What they've done and what they continue to do is nitpick the systems that they think will work for them across the board in certain areas, and then jettison it
in some other areas, yeah.
Their interest. I think they'll get away with it this time because the elections are so near. But personally, I'm very happy for the direct primaries. It's going to humble the governors.